Cloudtts. Walking in the Footsteps of the Buddha. Author Thich Nhat Hanh. Book 3. Chapter 72. Quiet Resistance. It was the day of the Buddha's weekly Dharma talk at Bamboo Forest. A large crowd was assembled to hear him, including King Bimbisara and Prince Ajatasattu. Venerable Ananda noticed that the number of bhikkhus attending from other centers was even greater than at the 2 previous Dharma talks. Venerable Devadatta was there, sitting between Venerable Sariputta and Mahakassapa. Once again, as soon as the Buddha was finished speaking, Venerable Devadatta stood up and bowed to the Buddha. He said, "Lord, you teach the bhikkhus to live a simple life free of desires, and to use only what is truly needed. I would like to propose 5 new rules which would make our commitment to simple living greater. First, bhikkhus should dwell in the forests and never be allowed to sleep in villages or towns. Second, bhikkhus should beg only and never accept invitations to eat in the homes of lay disciples. Third, bhikkhus should sew their robes from discarded scraps and rags and never receive robes as offerings from lay disciples. Fourth, bhikkhus should sleep only beneath the trees and not in huts or buildings. Fifth, bhikkhus should eat only vegetarian food." Lord, if bhikkhus followed these 5 rules, they would succeed in living a simple life of few desires. The Buddha answered, "Devadatta, the Tathagata cannot accept your rules as mandatory. Any bhikkhu who wishes to dwell only in the forests has permission to do that. But it is fine for others to live in huts, monasteries, villages, and cities. Any bhikkhu who wishes to only beg for his food may refuse invitations to eat in the homes of lay disciples. But others should feel free to accept such invitations as they provide occasions to help share the teaching. Any bhikkhu who wishes to sew his own robes from scraps and rags is free to do so. But it is fine for others to accept robes from lay disciples, as long as bhikkhus do not possess more than 3 robes. Any bhikkhu who wishes to sleep only beneath the trees is welcome to do so. But it is all right for others to sleep in huts and buildings. Any bhikkhu who wishes to eat only vegetarian food may do so. But others may accept food offerings containing meat when they are sure the animal was not killed expressly for them. Devadatta, under the present order, bhikkhus have many opportunities to make contact with the laity. They are able to share the teaching with those who are just becoming acquainted with the way of awakening." Venerable Devadatta asked, "Then you do not accept these 5 rules?" The Buddha answered, "No, Devadatta, the Tathagata does not accept them." Devadatta bowed and sat back down. His mouth was turned up in a self-satisfied smile. That night, as the Buddha rested in his hut at Bamboo Forest, he said to Ananda, "The Tathagata understands Devadatta's intentions. I believe there will soon be a serious split in our community." Not long after that, Venerable Ananda met Venerable Devadatta in Rajagaha. They stopped to talk along the side of the road. Devadatta informed Ananda that he was setting up his own Sangha, and would hold his own precepts recitations, confession ceremonies, retreat seasons, and Pavarana days for his followers, separate from the Buddha's Sangha. Deeply saddened, Venerable Ananda informed the Buddha of Devadatta's decision. At the next confession ceremony that took place at Bamboo Forest, Ananda noticed that several hundred bhikkhus who normally attended were absent. He knew they were attending the ceremony at Devadatta's center instead. When the ceremony was over, several bhikkhus went to the Buddha's hut to speak with him. They said, "Lord, bhikkhus who have sided with Devadatta are approaching many of us, exhorting us to join Venerable Devadatta's Sangha. They claim his rules are more upright than yours. They hold up your refusal to accept Venerable Devadatta's 5 rules as proof. They claim that monastic life at Bamboo Forest is too soft, not much different from life as a layperson. They say you only talk about living simply but won't institute the 5 rules that would assure that the bhikkhus lived such a life. They say you are hypocritical. Lord, we were not swayed by their arguments. Our faith rests with your wisdom." But many young bhikkhus who lack experience in the practice, especially those originally ordained by Devadatta, are drawn to the more austere practice of the 5 rules. They are leaving the Sangha to follow Venerable Devadatta. We felt we should inform you. The Buddha answered, "Please do not give this matter too much thought. The most important thing is your own practice of the noble and pure life of a monk." Several days later, Jivaka visited the Buddha on Vulture Peak to inform him that Devadatta now commanded a following of more than 500 bhikkhus. They were all dwelling at Devadatta's Gayasisa headquarters. Jivaka also informed the Buddha of secret political stirrings in the capital in which Devadatta was playing a key role. Jivaka suggested that the Buddha make a clear statement that Devadatta was no longer considered a member of the Buddha's Sangha. News of Venerable Devadatta's independent Sangha spread quickly. The bhikkhus were asked about it everywhere they went. Venerable Sariputta instructed them to answer all questions by simply saying, "Those who sow bad seeds reap bad fruits." Causing the community to break is the most serious violation of the teaching. One day, while speaking to several bhikkhus, the Buddha mentioned that Jivaka had counseled him to make a formal announcement that Venerable Devadatta was no longer considered a member of the Buddha's Sangha. Sariputta reflected on Jivaka's suggestion and then said, "Lord, we often publicly praised Venerable Devadatta's ability and virtue in the past. How will it look if we now denounce him?" The Buddha asked, "Sariputta, in the past when you publicly praised Devadatta, were you speaking the truth?" "Yes, Lord, I was speaking the truth when I praised Venerable Devadatta's ability and virtue." "Will you be speaking the truth now if you denounce Brother Devadatta's actions?" "Yes, Lord." "Then there is no problem. The important thing is to speak the truth." At a gathering of lay persons some days later, the bhikkhus announced to the people that the Venerable Devadatta had been expelled from the Buddha's Sangha, and that henceforth the Sangha could not assume responsibility for Venerable Devadatta's actions. Venerable Sariputta and Moggallana remained curiously silent throughout these events. They did not even answer the laity's questions. Venerable Ananda noticed their reticence and said to them, "Brothers, you have not offered any views on Venerable Devadatta's actions. Perhaps you have some plan of your own?" They smiled, and Venerable Moggallana said, "That is correct, Brother Ananda. We will serve the Buddha and the Sangha in our own way." Many of the laity gossiped about the schism and blamed it on jealousy and petty feelings. Others understood that there must be deeper, unrevealed reasons for the Buddha to denounce Venerable Devadatta. Their faith in the Buddha and the Sangha did not waver. One stormy morning, the people in the capital were shocked to learn that King Bimbisara was abdicating the throne in favor of his son, Prince Ajatasattu. The coronation ceremony for the new king was scheduled to take place 10 days later on the day of the full moon. The Buddha was concerned that he did not learn of these plans directly from King Bimbisara. The king had always consulted with the Buddha in the past before making major decisions. His concern that something was amiss was confirmed when Jivaka paid him a visit some days later. The Buddha and Jivaka did walking meditation together along a mountain path. They took slow, quiet steps while observing their breath. After a time, the Buddha invited Jivaka to sit with him on a large rock. Jivaka informed the Buddha that Prince Ajatasattu had placed King Bimbisara under house arrest. The king was confined to his chambers. No one but Queen Videhi was allowed to see him. The king's two most trusted advisers had also been placed under arrest because the prince feared they would try to prevent his coronation from taking place. Their families were falsely informed that they needed to remain at the palace for several days in order to assist with important political matters. Jivaka told the Buddha that the only reason he knew about these events was because he had been called to tend to an illness of the queen's. She told him how a month earlier, the imperial guards had caught the prince about to enter the king's chambers late one night. Finding his behavior suspicious, they searched him and discovered a sword concealed under his robes. They led him into the king's chambers and told the king of their discovery. The king looked at his son and asked, "Ajatasattu, why were you carrying a sword into the royal chamber?" "It was my intention to kill you, father." "But why would you want to kill me?" "I want to be king." "Why must you kill your own father to be king?" "If you but asked me, I would have abdicated in your favor at once." "I did not think you would do that." "I have obviously made a grave error and beg you to forgive me." The king asked his son, "Who put you up to this?" Prince Ajatasattu did not answer at first, but after his father's persistent questioning, he confessed that the idea had been Venerable Devadatta's. Although it was the middle of the night, the king summoned his two most trusted advisers to ask for their counsel. One adviser said that trying to assassinate the king was a crime punishable by death, and therefore the prince and Venerable Devadatta should both be beheaded. He even demanded the deaths of all the bhikkhus. The king disagreed. "I cannot kill Ajatasattu. He is my own son. As for the bhikkhus, they have already made it clear that they cannot be held responsible for the actions of Venerable Devadatta." The Buddha had true foresight in this matter. Suspecting Venerable Devadatta capable of harmful acts, he disavowed Venerable Devadatta's relation to his Sangha. "But I do not wish to kill Venerable Devadatta either. He is the Buddha's own cousin and has been a respected bhikkhu for many years in the past. The second advisor exclaimed, "Your compassion has no equal, Your Majesty. You are a worthy student of the Lord Buddha. But how do you propose to deal with this matter?" The king said, "Tomorrow I will let it be known to the people that I am abdicating the throne in favor of my son, Prince Ajatasattu. His coronation can take place in 10 days. But what of his crime of attempted assassination? I forgive both my son and Venerable Devadatta. Hopefully, they will learn something from my forgiveness." The two advisors bowed low to their king, as did Prince Ajatasattu. The king ordered the guards to keep the entire incident secret. The next day, after hearing the king's announcement, Venerable Devadatta hurriedly made his way to the capital. He requested an audience with the prince. Later, the prince told the queen that Venerable Devadatta had come to assist him in planning the coronation ceremony. But all the queen knew was that 2 days after her son's meeting with the bhikkhu, her husband and his two closest advisors were placed under house arrest. Jivaka ended by saying, "Lord Buddha, I only pray that the prince will release the king and advisors after his coronation has taken place." The next day, a royal messenger arrived with an invitation to the Buddha and his bhikkhus to attend the coronation ceremony. Soldiers were already busy decorating the city gates and streets with flags and lanterns. The Buddha learned that Venerable Devadatta planned to attend the ceremony accompanied by 600 of his own bhikkhus. The Buddha summoned Venerable Sariputta and said, "Sariputta, I will not attend the coronation ceremony. It is my wish that none of our bhikkhus attend, either. We cannot lend any sign of support to this cruel and unjust affair." The absence of the Buddha and all his bhikkhus was blatantly noticeable on the day of the coronation, causing questions to rise in the people's minds. Before long, they learned the truth that King Bimbisara and his advisors had been placed under house arrest. There grew among the people a quiet but steadfast resistance to the new regime. Although Venerable Devadatta called himself a leader, the people began to notice differences between how his bhikkhus handled themselves and how the bhikkhus of the Buddha did. The people began to refuse to give any food offerings to Devadatta's followers. Their refusal to support Devadatta was simultaneously a condemnation of the new king. King Ajatasattu was infuriated when he was told of the people's quiet refusal to lend him support. But he did not dare move against the Buddha or his Sangha, for he was wise enough to know that if he did so, a mighty protest would well up among the people and from the neighboring kingdoms, where the Buddha was held in great esteem. He knew that King Parsanadi of Kosala might even send soldiers if he heard that the Buddha had been arrested or harmed in any way. The king summoned Venerable Devadatta for further counsel. Chapter 73. Hidden Rice. Late one night, while sitting in meditation on Vulture Peak, the Buddha opened his eyes to see a man half concealed behind a nearby tree. The Buddha called to him. Beneath the bright moonlight, the man came forward, laid a sword at the Buddha's feet, and prostrated himself as if making an offering. The Buddha asked, "Who are you and why have you come here?" The man exclaimed, "Allow me to bow before you, teacher Gautama. I was ordered to come and kill you, but I cannot do it. I raised this sword in my 2 hands more than 10 times while you were meditating, but I was unable to take even 1 step towards you. I cannot kill you, but now I am afraid that my master will kill me. I was trying to decide what to do when you called to me. Allow me to bow before you." The Buddha asked, "Who gave you orders to come kill the Tathagata?" "I dare not tell you my master's name." "Very well, you need not tell me his name. But what did he tell you to do?" "Master, he told me which path to climb up the mountain, and he showed me a different path to return by after completing my mission." "Do you have a wife and children?" "No, teacher, I am not yet married. I have only an aged mother." "Then listen to me, and follow my instructions carefully. Return home at once and escape tonight with your mother across the border into Kosala. You and your mother can find a new life there. Do not return by the road your master showed you. If you take that route, you are sure to be ambushed and killed yourself. Go now." The man prostrated himself once more and then hurriedly left, leaving the sword behind. The next morning, Venerable Sariputta and Moggallana came to speak with the Buddha. They said, "We believe it is time the 2 of us paid a visit to the other side. We want to help our brothers who, out of ignorance, have taken a wrong turn. We request your permission to be gone for a period of time." The Buddha looked at his 2 disciples and said, "Go if you feel you must, but take special care. Do all you can to protect your own lives." Just at that moment, Venerable Sariputta noticed the sword lying on the ground. He looked into the Buddha's eyes as if to question him. The Buddha nodded and said, "Yes, last night a soldier came here with orders to kill the Tathagata, but the Tathagata has offered him guidance instead. Leave the sword there. When Jivaka calls, I will ask him to dispose of it." Moggallana looked at Sariputta and said, "Perhaps it would be better not to leave the Buddha in such circumstances. What do you think, my brother?" Before Sariputta could respond, the Buddha said, "Do not worry. The Tathagata is capable of avoiding any dangers that arise." That afternoon several bhikkhus from Bamboo Forest came to see the Buddha. They were so distraught, they were unable to speak. Tears rolled down their cheeks. The Buddha asked them, "What is the matter? Why are you crying?" One bhikkhu wiped his tears and answered, "Lord, we have just come from Bamboo Forest. On the road, we met brothers Sariputta and Moggallana. When we asked them where they were headed, they said they were crossing over to Gayasisa. We are so upset we cannot hold back our tears. More than 500 other bhikkhus have abandoned the Sangha, but we never expected your two most esteemed disciples to forsake you." The Buddha smiled and comforted the bhikkhus by saying, "Bhikkhus, do not grieve. The Tathagata trusts Sariputta and Moggallana. They will not betray the Sangha." Eased, the bhikkhus sat quietly at the Buddha's feet. The following day, Javaka invited the Buddha for a meal offering at his mango grove. Venerable Ananda accompanied the Buddha. When they were finished eating, Javaka informed them that Queen Videhi happened to be visiting. He wondered if the Buddha would mind meeting with her. The Buddha understood that Javaka had secretly arranged this meeting to take place, and he asked Javaka to summon the former queen. After she bowed to the Buddha, the queen began to sob. The Buddha let her ease her pain, and then he gently said, "Please tell me everything." The queen said, "Lord, King Bimbisara's life is in grave danger. Ajatasattu plans to starve him to death. He won't allow me to bring any more food to my husband." She told the Buddha that when the king had first been placed under house arrest, she had been allowed to bring him food each day. Then one day the guards confiscated the tray of food she was bringing to the king before allowing her to enter his chambers. She told the Buddha how, even though she wept, Bimbisara had consoled her and told her that he bore no hatred towards their son for his actions. He said he would rather suffer hunger than have the country plunged into war. The next morning, the queen hid small rice balls in her hair while also carrying a platter of food. The guards took away the platter, but the rice in her hair went undetected. She managed to feed her husband in such a manner for several days. But when the king did not die, Ajatasattu ordered the guards to more thoroughly search the queen. They discovered the hidden rice, and she was no longer able to bring him food that way. 3 days later she devised another plan. She mixed a paste of milk, honey, and flour which she spread over her body after bathing and drying herself. When the paste was dry, she put on her clothes. When the guards found no rice in her hair, they allowed her to enter the king's chamber. Once inside, she undressed and scraped off the paste to feed him. She had fed her husband twice now in this manner, but she feared she would soon be discovered and forbidden to visit him at all. The former queen began to sob again. The Buddha sat silently. After a long moment, he asked about the king's state of health, both physical and spiritual. The queen said that although he had lost a lot of weight, his strength was holding up, and his spirit was most elevated. He expressed no feelings of hatred or regret. He continued to smile and carry on a conversation as if nothing had happened. He was using his time as a prisoner to practice meditation. There was a long corridor in his chamber where he did walking meditation. The room also had a window which faced Vulture Peak. He gazed at the mountain every day for long periods and did his sitting meditation at the same window. The Buddha asked the queen whether or not she had been able to send news to her brother King Parsanadi. She replied that she had no means to do so. The Buddha said he would send a bhikkhu to Savatthi and ask King Parsanadi to help her any way he could. The queen thanked the Buddha, She then confided how before Prince Ajatasattu was born, the royal astrologers predicted he would betray his father. One day during her pregnancy, she was suddenly seized with a bizarre urge to bite King Bimbisara's finger and suck his blood. She was frightened and shocked by her desire, unable to believe she could give rise to so terrible a thought. From the time she was a little girl, she had always been afraid of the sight of blood and could not even bear to watch a fish or chicken slaughtered. Yet on that day, she desired nothing more than to taste her husband's blood. She struggled against her urge with all her strength until she finally burst into tears. Overcome with shame, she covered her face in her hands, but would not tell the king what was disturbing her. One day not long after that, King Bimbisara accidentally cut his finger while peeling a piece of fruit. Unable to control herself, the queen grabbed his finger and sucked the drops of blood. The king was startled, but he did not stop her. Then the queen collapsed to the floor and sobbed. Alarmed, the king helped her up and asked her what the matter was. She told him of her strange and terrible desire. She told him how she had struggled against it but had finally been defeated. She knew that the baby growing within her was the source of her violent urge. The royal astrologers suggested the baby be aborted or killed at birth. King Bimbisara could not agree to such a thing, and neither could the queen. When the prince was born, they named him Ajatasattu, which means the enemy not born. The Buddha advised the queen to visit her husband only once every 2 or 3 days to prevent arousing Ajatasattu's suspicions. She could spend a longer time with him on the days she did visit him. He also suggested that the king eat only a small amount of the nourishing paste at a time in order to save some for the days the queen did not visit. After offering these suggestions to the queen, the Buddha bid farewell to Jivaka and returned to Vulture Peak.